Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 19 of season 1 of Chris's Creative Corner. My name is Chris Cole. I am a small-time author for anybody who is just now tuning in. You should probably watch episodes 1 through 18 or listen to episodes 1 through 18 because they go in order, because what this is a mixture of audiobook and podcast. So we talk about the book and then we read the book. So each week I do a different chapter. So yeah, you're more than welcome to start in the middle of the book if you'd like. There will probably be things that you don't understand, and that's okay that you don't understand, but there are ways that you can go about understanding, like listening, starting at episode 1. So that'd be great. I'm not going to wait for you to do that. I'm going to continue on with this episode. But you can stop at any time and go. Or you can stay. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to move on to Questions for Chris. Questions for Chris is what I do every week. Well, I started a few episodes in. So instead of just reading the chapter straight, I answer questions that viewers and listeners ask. One of my friends who has been watching asked me about my shirts. So if you're listening on Spotify, I also have this available in video format, and the link is available. I wear a different shirt every week, and I have a lot of shirts. Oh, I have so many. And a lot of them are sassy in some way, or at least what I consider funny. I have several writing shirts. So one says something like, warning, I'm a writer. Anything you say or do can be used in a future book. Another one says, I'm plotting against you. I'm a writer. It's what I do. And then there are other shirts. There are other shirts that are about kindness. So like it spells out love, but it has like kindness, hope, inclusivity and that kind of thing, and diversity, and then it uses the words there to spell out love down, which I think is really cool. And then I just have flat out to some probably offensive shirts. One that has that there's that classic painting of Jesus where it kind of looks like he's rolling his eyes. I think it's probably one where he's being crucified. And it's a shirt that says, OMG, you guys, that's not what I said. And it basically just looks like it's him rolling his eyes as he complains about everybody misinterpreting what he said, which I feel like I've worn it to the Episcopal Church, and they thought it was funny. Other people are like, scandal, scandalized, clutching at my pearls. Which is, it's fine. It's not like I'm going to sit here and judge someone for being offended about something when that is, potentially offensive. At the same time, I'm not going to not wear the shirt, because a lot of people take what the Bible says and misinterpret or misinform other people. And a lot of people say, Jesus is this, Jesus is that, Jesus believes this, Jesus believes that. And I am sorry, I do not agree. Do not subscribe. And you can't speak for someone like that. Like, you just can't do it. Very simple. Like, there are things in the Bible, like quotes from Jesus and things like that, so you can kind of gather from what he says, what he is telling us to do. And out of all of those things, like the big one was like to love one another and to love God. And so, big long rant about the shirt that is not about the shirt at all, is the idea that, yeah, I understand that people may be offended, and that's okay. And I am also not going to not wear the shirt. I will choose where to wear the shirt, though. One of my other favorite shirts, I think that I have yet to wear on this podcast, maybe I'll wear that next week, is a Randy Rainbow shirt. And for those of you who don't know who Randy Rainbow is, you should definitely check him out. He is adorable and hilarious and sassy. And the shirt is a very beautiful design, I think, and it's very classy and elegant as it says, "Let's cut the shit." And that's very much how I approach things. That's how I approached things when I was a journalist. That's very much how I continue to approach things, like as a counselor in training. The idea of, okay, you're saying all these things, and I understand and I empathize, and also you're doing the opposite of what you are saying you want to do. So I need to call out what I see, and this is what I see, and you're doing this while saying that you want to do that. So what's going on? Kind of like, I want to be helpful. I'm not going to sit there and be all like, "Ugh, your hair's stupid." Like, that's not okay. I'm not going to do that. But call out, kind of ridiculousness or silliness, or in general, call out, you know, behaviors or actions that I find unhelpful. I will also, I also love that shirt because it just is so sassy. And I think I got my mom one too. I also have one that I got for me and my sister. They're both purple. My sister loves purple. I love purple. She doesn't corner the market on purple, even though she thinks she does. I'm the one who has a purple Nintendo Switch controller, and she doesn't. So, not that it's an argument or anything. So we both have this purple shirt, and it says, "I've got a good heart, but this mouth." Another sign that I am indeed sassy, and um, that maybe I should get out of the field of being like in marketing and communications because it's getting to the point where I want to write a press release and be all like, because of this and that, where people are assholes, this group is taking this action. And this action is amazing and super helpful to people who have been victimized by all the assholes. And then I'm like, no, you can't actually say that. And I'm like, can't I? Are you sure? And the answer is yes, I'm sure. And we have to figure out a way to word things appropriately. But that's why. So, yes, that's the long story about my shirts. I have a lot of shirts. I have so many shirts. And I actually have enough that I can wear a different one each week, and not repeat them. So like I can, like, on each podcast, like I don't have enough shirts that I can wear one every day without repeating. But I have one that I can wear like every day that I record a podcast. I can go every day, every week. Does that make sense? Am I saying the words today? My goodness. Luckily I have words in front of me that I can read. Um so the next question actually was sent to me via Instagram. And it is, what is the best money you ever spent as a writer? And I'm here to tell you folks, the best money I ever spent as a writer was getting my laptop. Um, I have spent other money, like I, have the recording setup and the ring light and all that stuff. But that's for my podcast, which is not technically writing, it's writing adjacent. It's a cousin of writing, but my laptop goes with me wherever I go, basically, and I'm able to use whatever I need to use on my laptop when I need to, and it's amazing. It's not like the fanciest, most expensive laptop ever. It was, I think, $600 to $700 in the middle there. And no, it is not a Mac. It is a PC. And I made that choice specifically because I prefer using Adobe Premiere to edit videos. And generally, I just like how a PC works more than a Mac. That's just my preference. I know how to use a Mac. I am Mac capable, and I like a PC better. Just a thing. That's also why I have my smartphone is not an iPhone, because I feel like my Samsung is much more customizable. Same with the PC. So yes, that was the best money I ever spent because I was able to take it with me wherever I go. And so if I am sitting there like, oh my gosh, I had this story idea in my head right now, I have to write it down. I don't have to turn to my phone and try and get it figured out. I can turn to my laptop and get it written out there, which is amazing. So yes, I have ranted on long enough, and it is time to move on from questions for Chris. And we are now going to move on to chapter 19 of Porch Light. Previously on Porch Light. So what happened last week is Casey and Nick have made up after their fight, and it's still kind of interesting how they're dealing with it. They're still kind of feeling out like where each other is, and that's fine. And one piece of big news is they were invited to be on Saturday Night Live as the band on the season premiere. Yes! So exciting. So excited for them. And so they went out to celebrate. They went to the Amazon, the place that they go in King. And who happens to show up but Scott, who Nick, after several drinks, is like, hey, how you doing? And Scott's like, oh, hey, I have a drink with your name on it back at my place. And Nick was like, let's do this. And by this, I don't mean the drink. And so, yeah, they totally they did it. They had all the sex. And Nick ended up talking about Casey after while they were laying there. And Scott didn't called him out, but it was in a really nice way. Like Scott wasn't like, let's cut the shit. But it was very nice. But he still talked about Casey after he had sex with Scott. So that was interesting. But Casey acted kind of weird and is trying to control his drinking. So he only had 2 drinks, but as Nick was leaving and told him that he was going to go somewhere with Scott, Casey picked up another drink. So interesting. We'll see what's happening here. And let's get into it. Chapter 19, Back in the Saddle. The next week, we were all on a flight back to Nashville to make our next album. Kennedy had even tried her hand at writing a song, and we were all really excited to present what we had to Omar. I was working on a Sudoku in a seat near the front, Kennedy was next to me, and Levi and Casey were in front of us. I finished the Sudoku and turned the page to find a crossword puzzle. I tore it out of the book and gave it to Casey in front of me, who accepted it wordlessly. You never said how things went with Scott, Kennedy leaned in conspiratorially. I laughed. They went really well. I forgot the connection we had until I saw him again. I was weirded out by the fact that he saw me respond to an event online and chose to go, but we also had a really nice time. Yeah? She wiggled her eyebrows at me. I rolled my eyes and noticed Casey had turned his head to look at me. What? Nothing. He turned back around. Omar and the entourage were there to pick us up once we arrived at the airport. This time, nobody stuck their head out of the top of the limo, but Casey poured himself a drink. I frowned, but didn't say anything. Once we settled in at Ackerman Studios, we ran through some of the songs we'd been working on. Omar suggested a few ghost-written songs, but he said it was up to us. We only had 8 new songs, and Omar was hoping for at least 10. Casey and I confirmed we could write 2 more songs while we were recording. While I was in Nashville, I decided not to let Tony know where I was. I definitely enjoyed his company in the bedroom, but I wasn't sure it went farther than that. Plus, with all the history, I decided not to get into it. It was a done deal. No more. 3 weeks into our recording time, we were set to debut on Saturday Night Live. We flew up to New York and met the cast. I immediately got pictures with all my favorites, and they agreed to put us in a skit. It was so surreal working with some of the funniest people I'd ever seen on TV. I had a hard time not cracking up during rehearsals that week. Our skit was about a band after party where the fans with the VIP passes were living it up hardcore, and the band members were settling in to read Emily Dickinson and talk philosophy. They even had me dress up with eyeliner and black leather to add to the effect. When I stepped out in costume for the first time, Casey's mouth dropped open, as did Kennedy's and Levi's, at the skin-tight leather vest and pants I was wearing. I felt a little uncomfortable, but I was also playing a character, so it didn't really feel like my body on display. Finally, the big night came. Zachary Quinto was hosting the show, so I basically got to meet almost all my favorite celebrities and a celebrity crush. Then it came time for us to perform. We decided to perform The Quiet Box, as people had likely heard enough. Sorry. Then, as soon as we had gotten there and done everything, it was over, and we were back in Nashville recording. After SNL aired, I got a text from Tony asking if I was going to be in Nashville anytime soon. I told him I was already here and far too busy to meet up. He didn't respond. I hoped he got the hint. He didn't. He showed up at Ackerman Records a few days later, a big grin on his face. "Hey, sexy man." I heard his voice as I stepped out with the others. They all immediately recognized him. Casey flushed and got into the back of the car without a backward glance. Hey, Tony, how's it going?" "Good. I know you said you weren't available, but I decided to drop by and see how things were going. You busy tonight?" I jerked my head back to the cars. Um, yeah, Casey and I are writing a few songs and we still have work to do tonight." He raised an eyebrow. "You and Casey, huh? What's going on there?" I felt my temper flare. "Well, we were able to make up. I apologized for the things I told you, and we're friends again." "Nothing more?" I scoffed and crossed my arms. "Why are you so obsessed with Casey being gay? He is who he says he is." "Yeah, okay." He rolled his eyes and laughed. "I'm just saying, when he decides to come out, I hope you two will be very happy together." I glared at him. "We're perfectly happy now, especially without people like you in our lives. You're such an asshole. I can't believe I slept with you." He clutched at his chest. "Oh, mean words. Whatever. Enjoy living in denial." I turned and walked to the car. I was annoyed I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just got in the car and told the driver I was ready to go. What was all that about? Casey turned to see Tony giving us the middle finger as we drove away. "He's an asshole." "Did he say something to you?" Casey cracked his knuckles. "Want me to go back there and kick his ass?" "No. I think he'd enjoy ass play right now anyway." "Ah, he came around looking for sex?" I shrugged. "I guess. I told him when he texted I wasn't available, and he showed up anyway." Casey twiddled his fingers at me, singing a spooky melody. "Somebody's got a stalker." I rolled my eyes and swatted him in the arm. "No, he just wants to sleep with me." "That's very common in stalkers." "Oh, what if you have to get a restraining order? It could be our first in the band. We could frame it or put it in a scrapbook." "Shut up!" I laughed. "Besides, if anyone's most likely to get a stalker, it's you or Levi. You play the sexy instruments. I just sing and play the piano." "Freddie Mercury sang and played the piano, and he was considered very sexy. Same with Lady Gaga, Sarah Bareilles. Well, you could dance in the music video, too. Maybe we all could. Then we'd all be equally sexy and have all the stalkers." I shook my head. "My mom told me she had a stalker when she was in high school. Apparently it got really serious and he attacked her after she filed a restraining order." "Ah, so you don't think this is all just funny?" "I mean, I guess it should be expected with the territory. I think what really bothers me most is there's at least two people out there who I've slept with who don't like me. I hope nobody gets a hold of them to do interviews or something." Casey smirked at me. "Yes, they're going to talk about how displeased they were with your penis. Actually, Hector might really be displeased unless you're a horse." I snorted with laughter. Yeah, sure, I should be a porn star. Actually, mine's tucked in my sock right now. Mine's looped through both pant legs and around my waist. Yeah, and tied in a bow. You forget, Casey, I've seen yours. He stopped for a moment, looking confused. Then he seemed to remember. Oh, yeah. I forget about how drunk I've been sometimes. Have I ever seen yours? Nope. And unless you sleep with me, you never will. That's a good rule to have. We fell silent as we reached the hotel. The rest of the night went on without talk of any lovers. In fact, no lovers were mentioned until 1 month later, when Casey came into the studio and announced he had a date. He looked very excited. With who? I stopped writing notes on my sheet of music to look up. Veruca Adams. Holy shit! Kennedy leapt to her feet, looking quickly between me and Casey and toning down her excitement. I mean, wow. She's a big deal. How'd you swing that? Omar wanted to do a publicity relationship to drum up even more media coverage for the band. I'd date Veruca Adams for publicity. Levi looked uncharacteristically jealous. I'd date the hell out of her. I laughed. Why did Omar choose you over anybody else, Casey? He shrugged. 'Cause I asked him to? I frowned. You asked him to set you up for publicity? He raised his eyebrows. Yeah? I get to date Veruca Adams. Who knows, maybe we'll date for real if things work out. How old is she? Is she our age? She's a few years older. You probably just think she's younger because she plays a teenager in, like, all her movies. I scoffed. Yeah, she plays the stuck-up bitch. I wonder how much of that is acting. Kennedy looked at me in shock. I wondered why until I looked at Casey, who looked hurt. You don't think I should date Veruca? I struggled to find the words. I think publicity relationships are wrong. If you want to date someone, then date someone, but don't do it for a photo op. That's just using people. She's going to be using me just as much as I'm using her. She's got a good girl image that's going to be slightly altered by dating me, a bad boy musician. And as a bad boy musician, I get points for being a big softie and dating a good girl. Win-win. My stomach twisted. I had no idea you had such a knack for public relations. I talked it over with Omar and he's cool with it. What's the big deal? Why are you wigging right now? I shook my head. I'm not wigging. I'm fine. I'm just surprised, I guess. Congrats. You look great together. Casey took a few steps forward so Kennedy and Levi couldn't hear. What, are you jealous or something, Nick? I gave a forced bark of a laugh. Yeah, right. I definitely want to date Veruca Adams. She really gets me going. You know what I mean. I looked at him, ready to give a biting response, but his earnestness stopped me. I took a breath. I don't want to see you get hurt, Casey. These things can be really complicated. He smiled gently and patted me on the shoulder. I'll be fine. Hey, maybe Omar can set you up with someone. You seem to get along well with Zachary Quinto. I laughed. Yeah, that's a world of no. I should set my sights way lower. Probably on someone in my league. He's not out of your league. You're in a class of your own, Nick. Any guy would be lucky to be with you. I smiled, and we got to work. Sure, any guy would be lucky to be with me. Then why was I all alone? Maybe I should have Omar set me up too. That night, after we got done in the recording studio, I sent off a text to Scott. Hey, Scott, how's it going? You ever been to Nashville? My, how the tables are turning. That was the end of chapter 19 of my book, Porch Light. Oh, there's the cover. And that's all we have time for this episode. So tune in next week. We're going to be reading chapter 20. We're almost done with the book. We're 2/3 of the way through. My goodness. My goodness gracious. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm kind of freaking out. Oh my goodness. So 10 more episodes left. Wait, is that right? 11 more episodes left. So we have 11 episodes left of reading the book. And then we can get into the discussion. We can get into talking about the book and the characters and the choices they made and the choices I made with the characters and all of that exciting stuff. It'll be interesting because I have friends who are interested in talking to me about it, and so we're going to figure out like how that's going to work. It's going to be fun. Yeah, so that's all for this episode of Chris's Creative Corner, Season 1, Episode 19, as we read Chapter 19 of my book, Porch Light. We will move on to Chapter 20 next week, and we will see you then.